Hey guys, welcome back again to my channel. My name is Inka, and if it's your first time stopping by, then you baby are most definitely welcome. Now, if you don't know, I recently had a baby about a month ago, and I'm here to share my experience giving birth in the UK as an immigrant. And if that sounds like something that you're interested in, then you definitely want to keep on watching. So when I talk about my experience giving birth in the UK, I'm not just talking about, my hospital experience. I'm talking about my experience at work, everything, so yeah, let's go back to the beginning. Just in case you can hear aggressive sucking, that's my baby. I'm breastfeeding at the moment because you guys know that you got to do what you got to do. If not, she's not going to let me film this video. So yeah, before we go on, I just want to say I want mama to say hi to you guys. Hey mama, do you want to say hi? What are you looking at? Mama, you're so pretty, mama. You're so pretty, mama. Okay, she's definitely not having any of this today, so we're just gonna jump right into the video now. So you guys know that I recently moved to the UK in December/January of this year. That was when I actually moved into the country, and by the time I was coming into the UK, I was already pregnant. As you guys know, I work with the NHS, and when I was coming into the country, I'm gonna say that I got my job with the NHS in September/October of last year. But with the processing and everything, I wasn't able to get my visa till December of last year, and then I moved towards the end of December and started working in January. I'm just giving you guys timeline so that you guys know. Now, I got pregnant in December of last year, so by the time I was coming in, I was already pregnant. By the time I was starting work, I was already pregnant with my baby. And as usual, I was curious to know the maternity leave policy in my trust, so I went to ask my line manager about the maternity leave policy, and they told me that there was a criteria. In my trust, there's a whole policy about maternity leave, eligibility, and all of that. But I just want to say, baseline, that you are entitled to maternity leave. That's it. The criteria that you must meet in order to be eligible for maternity pay, and there are different types of maternity pay. There's the statutory maternity pay, and then there's maternity allowance. So statutory maternity pay is the one that your employer gives you, and then maternity allowance is the one that you get from Job Center Plus. So for statutory maternity pay, that was the one I was interested in because obviously I was going to be working with my employer at the time that I was going to be giving birth. So I wanted to be sure if I qualified for that. So according to the UK government, you are qualified for 52 weeks of maternity leave, regardless of whether you started working there today and you're giving birth tomorrow. It doesn't matter. As long as you've started working, you are eligible for 52 weeks of maternity leave. The variable, however, is whether you're going to be paid or not during your maternity leave. And you guys know the way this country is. Money is essential, do you know what I mean? So it's a very important variable for you to consider. For me, there are different criteria according to my trust. I'm going to put a flow chart on the screen. If you've worked for a year before the 11th week of the expected date of delivery, they use very complex terms in explaining this, but if you've worked for a year before the 11th week of the expected date of delivery, then there's a different maternity policy, maternity package. If you haven't worked for up to a year, there's a different maternity package. I hadn't worked for up to a year before the 11th week of my expected date of delivery, so I didn't qualify for statutory maternity pay. However, there was a possibility that I could qualify for maternity allowance. And for you to qualify for maternity allowance, you need to have been working for 26 weeks in the past 66 weeks before your expected date of delivery, which in simple terms, to my understanding, is you need to have been working for at least 6 months in the past year and a half, thereabout, leading up to the date before you're supposed to give birth. That's just the long and short of it, in my understanding. Now, that one, I know that I qualify for that because, like I said, I started working in January and I was due to give birth at the end of August. So I knew that I qualified for that. Usually, when you are denied statutory maternity pay, if you think you qualify for maternity allowance, you're supposed to get a form from your employers explaining why they can't give you statutory maternity pay. And for me, that form was SMP1 form. That's what it's called. So you're going to submit that alongside all the other documentations, which include your pay slip, the birth certificate of your baby if your baby has been born, your MAT-B1 form, which is the form that says that you are pregnant. This is what is given to you during your antenatal clinic appointments by your midwife or your doctor, which indeed confirms that you are pregnant and you're not lying. Do you know what I mean? So you're supposed to attach all of that and submit that, and then you get a feedback in about 20 days saying whether you're going to be paid or not during your maternity leave. So for statutory maternity pay, it's a different ball game. About, you know what I said about if you've been working for 1 year before the 11th week of expected date of delivery, there's a different pay. Bless you, mama. Bless you, mama. Sorry, mama. So there's a different pay for that. It's like 90% of your salary for so amount of time, then it drops, and then in the last 13 weeks of your maternity leave, if you're going to be taking the full 52 weeks, you won't be paid. But then there's an option for you to calculate how much you're entitled to for the whole duration and then split it evenly across all the months if that's what you want to take. If you want to take the full 52 weeks, you can split it across evenly instead of tapering it down till the end when you don't get any money. For maternity allowance, you're entitled to, I believe, £154 per week for 33 weeks. So yeah, that's what you're entitled to, and the rest of it, you won't get any money from that. So there's actually a table that the Department of Works and Pensions uses to calculate whether you are eligible for maternity allowance, and there's like a timetable. So you can see it says January EWC there on this form. I don't know if you guys can see that, but EWC there on the form means expected week of confinement. So for example, if you're supposed to give birth on the 17th of June, then the week that 17th of June falls into is your expected week of confinement. TP means start period, TP end means test period ending, 20th week, 15th week, blah blah blah, till you know whether you qualify for this pay or not. So after I'd already established that obviously I didn't qualify for statutory maternity pay, I continued working as per usual, and then I started saving towards the period when I was going to take maternity leave, because obviously if I'm not going to be paid a good amount of money, then I can't take the 52 weeks maternity leave, even though I would have loved to take that, but obviously I can't take it. So I had to start saving. Because of COVID-19 and all, there was a policy that was made that from 28 weeks, then you start working from home if you're pregnant. That's in my trust. It doesn't follow in every trust, because I learned along the line that not every trust did this, but in my trust, from when I was 28 weeks pregnant, then I started working from home. So from 28 weeks, I was supposed to be doing things like audit work or paperwork in general while working from home, and this will not affect your pay. This was done. It was a policy that was started during COVID to protect pregnant women, because obviously you know that the immunity in pregnancy is down, so they don't want you catching any diseases and blaming it on the hospital or on the trust. Do you know what I mean? So that was when that policy was made. So if you guys noticed, there was a time I was always fixing my nails because I was actually working from home at that time. Your salary is not affected. You are not on maternity leave at that point. You're just working from home. So when you put in your documentation that you want to start your maternity leave is when you are actually going to start. Let's talk about giving birth and my experience. So I had antenatal clinic appointments, and the antenatal clinic appointments, the way it is run in this country, you know, in Nigeria, antenatal is usually at the hospital. The doctors will see you, blah 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 blah. But in this country, at the beginning, during the booking, it's done by the midwives. Then the midwives would stratify to see if you're high risk or low risk. So for me, I was a low risk pregnancy in the beginning, and so I was seen by the midwife. The only thing, like if you guys watch my vlogs, you would have known, is that I was anemic, so I had lower than normal blood levels. So because of that, I had a few consultant appointments along the line. So if you are low risk, your pregnancy is entirely going to be managed by the midwife from start to finish. You're not going to see any doctor at any point. All you're going to be seeing is the midwives. And if they have any concerns, then they'll refer you to the doctors. If you're high risk, then you're going to see the doctors. I don't know if that makes sense to you guys, but yeah, that was something that was really, really different for me, because coming from Nigeria, doctors are the ones who usually would manage things like pregnancies. Then there's the option to give birth at home if you want it. There's an option for a home birth. There's an option for a birth center delivery. So in a birth center, it's literally is in the hospital, but it's like it's not the labor ward. So, and then there are no doctors or anything there. It's just the midwives and like something called a doula or something like that. So it's just you chilling really and allowing nature take its course with the delivery, with very minimal medical interventions, as opposed to the labor ward where there's possibility of medical interventions. But with the birth center, if everything goes well, there's literally not going to be any medical interventions. I don't know if you guys understand what I mean, but yeah. Now let's talk about why I had a cesarean, because I know that if you guys watch my vlogs, you'd have seen me saying that I wanted to have a water birth, but I ended up having a cesarean. So along towards the end of the pregnancy, at about 39 weeks, my blood pressure started to go up, and obviously my blood pressure was good all through the pregnancy, but then towards the end it started to go up. And when I went for my consultant appointment, because again, remember I told you guys that I was anemic, I even had an iron transfusion. When I went for my consultant appointment, I just told them that since the blood pressure is starting to come up, that I really like for us to wrap this up instead of waiting for labor to start spontaneously, which the consultant was happy to do. The consultant at the time was of the opinion that I should have an induction of labor, but because I know that there's a possibility of an induction of labor failing, because obviously you're starting the labor artificially, so there's a possibility I can fail. And I just felt, what's the point of going through labor only for you to end up having a cesarean if it fails? So I asked the consultant if it was possible for me to have a cesarean, and he said yes. Another reason why I decided to have a cesarean was because I had an ultrasound towards the end of the pregnancy that showed that she was going to be a big baby. The ultrasound at the time, I was 38 plus weeks, and the ultrasound said she was going to be she was around 3.8 kg then. Yes, mama. It said you were around 3.8 kg, but were you? No, she wasn't around 3.8 kg, although the consultant told me not to pay mind to the ultrasound because it's grossly inaccurate at 38 weeks, that the margin for error is plus or minus 20%, which is huge. That's a very huge margin for error. So he told me not to pay mind to it, but because the possibility that she was going to be a big baby was already in my mind, I just said, you know what, I don't want to push a 3.8 kg baby from my pum-pums. You know what I mean? If the margin for error is plus or minus 20%, what if it's the plus 20%? I'm just going to be 4 point something. Nah, bruv. I'd rather have a cesarean. So again, I had a cesarean because of those two reasons. If the pregnancy was all the way managed by the midwives, and I mentioned that I wanted a cesarean, I wouldn't have been able to get one, because again, like I said, midwives only manage low risk pregnancies, and you can't have an elective cesarean. Midwives don't have the power to give you a cesarean. Do you know what I mean? It has to be the doctor who decides whether you can have a cesarean or not. So only if a cesarean is indicated with the midwives, that's when you can have it. You can't just wake up and ask for a cesarean and expect to get a cesarean. Okay, I don't know if that makes sense to you guys, but yeah. Mama, is my gist making sense to you? Is my gist making sense to you, mama? Okay, so another thing that is a really popular question again is how much it costs to give birth in the UK. So for me, I'm going to say that giving birth in this country costs me absolutely nothing, and that's because usually as an immigrant you would pay an international health surcharge, but because I was coming in with a health and care workers visa, I did not pay an international health surcharge. Neither did my husband. And even when I get a visa for mama, she's not going to pay an international health surcharge because they will all be dependent on me, who is the health worker, who doesn't have to pay an international health surcharge. So giving birth in this country cost me nothing, just as it would cost anybody who is a citizen or permanent resident in the United Kingdom. If I came in with another type of visa, maybe if I was on a student visa or whatever, I'd have had to pay an international health surcharge, and that would have cost me some money. I think it costs about £600+ per year per person of your visa. So if your visa is 3 years long, then you're going to pay £600+. Let me just say 650. I don't really know how much it costs, but let's say £650 per year. So £650 multiplied by 3 years, and that is going to be around £1,900 per person. So for me and my husband, Mama, what is this? Okay, sorry. So yeah, that's how much it would have worked out to be. But again, because I came with a health and care workers visa, I did not pay that money. So what was her birth weight at the end of the day? Her birth weight was 3.4+ kilos, and yeah, that's what she weighed. Now let's talk about my experience in the hospital when I actually had the cesarean. It was a very pleasant experience from start to finish. So it was a very, very pleasant experience for me from start to finish, from when I checked into the hospital to when I had the operation to even the aftercare, even the food. Like, there was literally a menu. You could choose whatever you wanted. They had different types of menus. I chose from the Afro-Caribbean menu. So I had jerk chicken, I had spicy curry. You know, those were the types of food I had when I was on the ward. The nurses were brilliant, the midwives were brilliant, pain management was brilliant, and the fact that my husband could be in the theater when I was giving birth as well was also brilliant. Everything was just a really pleasant experience from start to finish, and for that I am really, really grateful and thankful for the NHS, because obviously it was just a really, really pleasant experience for me from start to finish. So yeah, anyways, that is it for this video, guys. I really do hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you answered the bulk of the questions that you guys might have had concerning my labor and delivery experience. So yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you guys in my next video. Bye, guys. Mama, do you want to say bye? Mama, do you want to say bye? Say bye-bye. Bye.